Hello, tea family. How are you today? I hope you are having an amazing day. Um, I am stopping listening to this right now. Welcome. Feel free to say hello and let me know what you're drinking today, or if you're waiting for us to go ahead and 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 make our mocktail. That's okay too. Put that in the comments or in the chat, depending on how you are joining us live today. So today we're going to be doing a couple of things. I'm going to give everybody a minute or two to join. We try and get on right as soon as it turns 6 o'clock for those that are watching for the 6 o'clock. But sometimes people are like, "Oh, wait, it's live. Let me get over there now," and I want to give them a minute. So feel free to say hello in the comments, and we are going to be doing two things today. First, we're going to be making a mocktail, and we're going to start that soon, which is why you do not see an electric tea kettle here today, because we already made our tea earlier, and it's now cooled down, which is a benefit when you're making a mocktail that's going to be a cold mocktail as opposed to a hot mocktail. There are hot mocktails like a mocktail hot toddy, things like that, that are wonderful and delicious, and they are warm, but we're not making one of those today. It is still August, so we're still in somewhat heat. It is just a little cooler here where I am right now, so I don't need to do it. Love the fact that everybody's coming in and everything like that. We're going to get started in just a second. Also, if you have any questions, please put those in the chat or the comments, again, depending on how you're joining us. And I will answer those too. I have no problem. After we make our mocktail, I will be talking about the 10 top tea blends. And we're going to go from 10 to 1 because, I mean, that's what we do. And we're going to see what they are. It's funny because these are not just like our top 10 tea blends for known as Kitchen Secrets. These are across the world. What are the top 10 tea blends? And it's interesting because we have versions of some of them. Our top seller is not the world top seller, which is kind of interesting, but that's okay. Everybody in different areas likes different things. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And today we're going to make a mocktail.
That is at Serene Sunrise today.
Serene Sunrise. Oh, I actually have Serene Sunrise in this. It's like my last sip, but I just finally finished it, and but I'm super excited. Okay, so today we decided last week together when we were on live, we wanted to do a black tea as opposed to a green tea. And so I kept thinking, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to do for a mocktail? And I kept thinking about it, and my handy dandy assistant and I were chatting, and we're like, what do we want? You know, because we've made tons of mocktails, and we love doing holiday mocktails to match cookies and you know, around the holiday season and different things like that, and they're just fun to make on lives every once in a while. And so we kept thinking, well, what do we want to do, because we want it to be unique and different. And what's funny is y'all had said that you wanted us to do a black tea, and that was perfectly fine. What was funny is we kept coming up with all these ideas for green teas, and we're like, for instance, I came up with one with our lemon zinger. That, remember, that's a green tea with lemon and ginger. Lost my brain for a second there, everybody. And ginger. And what it was is we were going to brew the tea, and then I saw a lot of different things out there, and people turning lemonade into a frozen milky lemonade drink. And I was like, we could do that with lemon zinger, and it would add a little bit more. And if we added a little bit this, so I mean, there's one. I just wasn't sure how much. I really liked the idea of adding some. A lot of them used either evaporated milk when they were looking at their recipes. I would be more inclined to do like a regular milk or cream before I froze it, and then you turn it into like an icy type of drink, and then use like a honey or a simple syrup as opposed to the evaporated milk. I just, there's a lot of stuff in evaporated milk. So that was one of the things for me that I was thinking about, but there's one, and we kept coming up with all these ideas, but we settled on this one. Has no name, so obviously we have to come up with a name today. All right, first thing we're gonna do is I have created, not really, I have these little round balls of watermelon. Now, these are seeded watermelons. They are in season right now. We go to a farmer's market on Saturdays. Well, and sometimes on Thursdays, the people that have these are there too. And I'm telling you, they go to a local farm right here near us, and they absolutely have the best watermelon ever. And I can get this huge thing. They had a 61-pound watermelon. That was too much for the handy dandy assistant and I alone. But they had a 61-pound watermelon, and it was only $7. So needless to say, we get a lot of watermelon, and then I was like, hey, this is great. We could do this really summery one. Now, y'all may have seen this fork before. This will be this fork's very last visit on a live, because I had to break up some ice cubes that got reclumped together as we moved them downstairs, and so it broke. I use this a lot to muddle things, and what I'm actually going to do right now, and I don't know if you can see, you see all the little spackles of water? I want to almost muddle or crush up this watermelon. Now, could I do this? Right, I'm going to have to use this side. Could I do this with a regular fork or a food processor? Yes. I just like the idea that some of it is going to have a little bit thicker bites. It's not all going to be a pure puree. If you like your drinks as a pure puree, that would be fine. Pull it up here so you can see what I'm doing. And all I'm doing is breaking it down into small little chunks and watermelon. I'm getting a lot of good flavor. Now, this for me, because the watermelon is so sweet, I'm not going to need to add a lot to it. There we go. We've muddled it down, and you can use as much watermelon as you want. There we go. So, I did this in the clear glass so that you could see what's going on. The other thing that we wanted to do was we wanted to add some fresh squeezed lime juice. I know a lot of people would go with lemon. Lemons are super popular with lemonades and things like that, but we really wanted to do just a little bit of lime. It's a slightly different citrus taste to it. Okay, so here's my shaker. Those of you who've been with me on a live before know I very rarely am able to do this without a mess, but we're going to try. So the first thing that's going to go in here is watermelon, both the juice and what I've crushed up. Next, I just brewed some breakfast blend. Just some straight old-fashioned breakfast blend, like you see right there. I brewed it, and then I just let it cool. Okay, so really what I did is I took half of the cup, and we tried our experiment, and then I have half a cup left for this. Because we only make enough for the one glass, which is usually when my handy-dandy assistant steals it. But brew up 1 cup of breakfast blend. I probably put, these are 1-inch balls that we've taken out with a scooper. I probably put 3 or 4 of those in there, so I don't know exactly how much watermelon that is, but roughly that much. A half cup or 4 ounces of cooled breakfast blend. Now you notice there's no sugar in here. I am going to add a little bit, just a tiny bit. I would say, okay, I'm going to say 1/4 teaspoon if you like your mocktails on the sweeter side, and I would say up to a 1/2 teaspoon of fresh squeezed lime juice if you like your items on the little more tart side. Also, you're going to need to adjust for how sweet your watermelon is. This watermelon is unbelievably sweet, so I probably added a little bit more lime juice than I needed to. The other thing that I like to do is this one. It's just a small container of the honey we get from our good friends, the beekeepers. And I am only going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon. Now this is not your average honey. This is a vanilla honey. I I just wanted to do something a little special for it. We tried it with the experiment with just regular honey, and it was amazing. The handy dandy assistant not only stole it, he drank it all, other than the couple of sips that I got. So that should tell you that it was absolutely delicious. But I wanted to do something a little different. So this is a vanilla. You could just go with a regular honey, a simple syrup, whatever you wanted to do to sweeten it. I wanted to add just a little bit of sweetness to it because I was pouring a little bit extra of the lime juice in there. Okay.
What about grenadine?
Grenadine. I wouldn't put grenadine in it. Grenadine is, I mean, it's really good if you're making a Shirley Temple, but it's going to be too much sweetness and really thick syrup when you also have the watermelon. Because remember, our watermelon's super sweet. If you had a more tart watermelon, you might want, I would rather add honey than a grenadine. It's a process.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right, so now we're going to try, oh, yeah. Well, we're not going to try quite yet. Got one more thing to add. All right, and we're going to add a little bit of ice. I can do this because I'm the only one that's going to be drinking it, because I'm going to keep it away from my handy dandy assistant. All right. So if your breakfast blend is not, you wouldn't want to do it burning hot, but a little bit still warm, the ice is going to cool it down. This is usually where I make my mess. And a tiny bit, but not much. And then I'm going to just pour. Okay, and the only thing, the only thing left in my container is, I'm going to actually put this down here, because this is my desk, and then there will be paperwork there later tonight and tomorrow, and I don't want that to get all that way. Let's see. Hence the reason why I'm also wearing an apron today, so that I don't get it all over me, because we all know I like to make a mess for whatever reason. I didn't need the spoon. My spoon was a backup. And here we are. Little bit of a lime. And I'm going to say cheers. That is so good. You still taste the tea, but you also get this burst of watermelon right afterwards. So you kind of get the robust, bold flavor of the tea, and then the next thing that hits your palate is the sweetness of the watermelon, and then you get a little bite of the tartness of the lime. Now if you wanted it to be super fancy, you could add in a little bit of, let me cover this up, but club soda or seltzer water. I am not in a carbonated beverage sort of mood, but you would add like another ounce or two of that potentially as well. So anybody have a thought on the name? Go ahead and put it in the chat. But right now I'm going to enjoy this watermelon breakfast blend tea mocktail. All right. And while I do that, we're going to start to go ahead and we are going to talk about the 10 most popular tea blends worldwide. So number 10, Lady Grey. The Lady Grey is kind of a lighter version of Earl Grey. Typically it has like lemon or orange peel or a lavender often added to it. I know our Earl's Lady, we add a lavender to it and we go just a touch heavier on the bergamot. It is always, Lady Grey, or for us Earl's Lady, is a much more delicate tea than a straight Earl's blend or an Earl Grey tea. It's always going to have a little bit more of that citrus flavor to it, but so many people love it that way, and they love it with a little bit of lavender, not too much so it doesn't overpower, it kind of smooths it out. That is the number 10 most popular tea blend. Okay, so number 9. Anybody have any guesses? It is not breakfast blend, but that is a really good guess. It's really close. It is an Irish black breakfast tea, which you know is a black tea. It has a really strong Assam amount to it. Um, so, like a breakfast blend is a blend of different teas, and there is no true official recipe for a breakfast blend. Each tea company makes its own breakfast blend or English breakfast type. But one of the keys is it needs to have Assam, and usually there's even more Assam added when you go to an Irish breakfast. That's one of the things. There might be less. It's not a straight Assam typically, but it is typically half or more Assam tea. Very similar to an English breakfast. Definitely has way more caffeine. Uh, Stronger flavor. It is really enjoyed by those who love that full-bodied, robust, bold flavor. Irish breakfast is very traditionally enjoyed with milk and sugar in it. It is not one that you can, but not necessarily put like lemon in it. People typically will have dairy and a sweetener added in milk and sugar. Okay. Number 8 is actually a green tea. The 8th most popular tea blend in the world is Jamaica. This is typically a green tea that has been blended with a roasted brown rice. I know it sounds funny, but if you think about it, the Jamaica green tea also typically comes from China. China is known for rice. They're also really known for their teas, and they roast up the roasted brown rice. They mix it in with the green, and they are one of the it's a very popular blend. I've gone to different tea rooms across the country, and it is a pretty traditional blend. It is the 8th most popular. The rice, because it's roasted, adds kind of almost a nutty flavor to the tea, but it's not made with nuts, which is really good because my eldest is allergic to nuts, and so this was one she could kind of get that nutty flavor, but not have nuts in it. So it's also a popular choice. I know I talked about China, but it's also a super popular choice in Japan. So, okay. Scottish breakfast. Scottish breakfast is another one. They all have separate blends that are similar to the English breakfast, the Irish breakfast, the Scottish breakfast, but there's subtle differences. And I've had a couple of different blends of Scottish breakfast before, and very much enjoyed them. But I love black tea. Like I really do love black tea. Okay, the number 7 most popular tea blend across the world is actually called a chai rooibos, which I thought is funny because for us, it's a ruby chai. And it is one of our top 4. Actually, I would say it's probably in our top 3 most popular blends for us. And it is typically the rooibos tea from South Africa, which has the earthy notes. It blends really well with the spices that you find in a chai. Typically, you're going to have cinnamon, you're going to have cardamom. A lot of them have ginger. Some may have black pepper. Different things like that. As we talked about last week, everybody has kind of like their own chai blend. We actually have 3 different ones we use because our chai blend of spices is different for our black tea, our green tea, and our rooibos tea. So that is a caffeine-free one, and it is an herbal tea, but it is the 7th most popular across the world. I can understand why. It is extremely popular, and this is one where it's great because you can have it hot or cold, and you can have it with milk or without, or you can have it with honey or without, and it is very natural. And so many people, more and more, what we hear are at events and farmers markets that we go to is people are moving away from the caffeine, and they are looking at tea alternatives where they still want that chai flavor, but they don't want the caffeine. And so we love being able to offer them the ruby chai. I do have to say it is kind of funny because ruby chai, we came out with this last year. In fact, we came out with it last October. And it was only supposed to be a seasonal blend that went from October to December, because we thought the chai blend that we had come up with was very reminiscent of like that Thanksgiving, Christmas, end of the year kind of season blend that you find in the fall into the Christmas season. And it was so popular and we kept selling out. Like we would make, another 20, 30 ounces and we would sell out in a week. And we would make another 20 ounces and we would sell out in a week. And then we kept selling out and we couldn't keep up with demand. And so we're like, well, obviously this is very popular. It was the first chai blend we had ever done and it was a hit. And it was one of the things is we waited a long time. We waited a couple of years before we came out with a blend that we were really happy with. And then so we decided Ruby Chai needs to be permanent. And so that is the 7th most popular tea blend across the world. Okay, so number 6, we're going to move back into the realm of green teas. It is Moroccan Mint Tea. Now this is a green tea, typically with a Moroccan mint tea blend. Yes, we have something similar. We have our green mint, but it is not a Moroccan mint. I will tell you that right now. A Moroccan mint is typically a gunpowder green tea, as opposed to we use a jasmine green tea. It is often, they blend it with the fresh mint leaves, whereas we use ones that have been dried so that the peppermint, so that it can be added in and packaged and sold, so it's not the fresh mint like you would traditionally have in the Moroccan mint tea. The Moroccan mint tea that's the most popular, again, 6th most popular across the world. It is typically a very sweet tea. They will add, it can be served hot or cold, but it's typically cold, but they will definitely add sugar to it, and it is very traditional in Morocco. Okay, number 5, the 5th most popular tea blend across the world is actually just a chamomile blend, is how it came out. Again, we're back into an herbal tea, so this one, as long as it has no other ingredients have caffeine in it, this is going to be a caffeine-free blend like the Ruby Chai. We actually have 2 chamomile blends. We have a peacefulness where we've mixed in some other ingredients and a green tea, but actually Evening Mint is our most popular chamomile blend. It has peppermint and has chamomile and has other things in it, but for us, it is just one of the most ones. It's a lavender, but it is very popular and more people prefer that to our more traditional chamomile blend. But this is where you're going to get dried chamomile flowers. A lot of times there's other, and this is why we came up with the Evening Mint, lavender and mint and different things like that. It's more, chamomile is associated with the tea that you drink in the evening and that you relax with. Especially something to wind down before bed. I am super excited. We have a local farmer, and she had her chamomile go out of control. Sad for her, happy for us, because she harvested all the chamomile blossoms for us and gave them to us. So I even have completely locally grown chamomile in limited supply. So I might do something special with a chamomile blend coming up. I don't know. It's just I have some that really harvested right here in the same county where I live, which is always really exciting to me. Okay, the 4th most popular tea blend across the world is a Jasmine Green Tea, which is kind of funny because our Emerald Garden is a blend of a Sencha Green Tea and a Jasmine Green Tea, and this particular green one, though, so we have something similar in our Emerald Garden. The Jasmine Green Tea, that is number 4 around the world, these green teas, tea leaves, have not only been rolled in the jasmine blossoms, but they also often have other fragrances from other flowers in the area. This is a very light, delicate floral note that gets added to the tea leaves. This is going to pair well with a light meal, a chicken, or a salad, or desserts, or different things like that. But that's it. Very similar to our Emerald Garden. but that is number 4. Okay, number 3. The number 3 tea blend across the world. Any guesses? Any guesses?
Breakfast blend.
It's not breakfast blend. It's so good. Surprisingly enough, it is not breakfast blend. The number 3 is masala chai. And so we talked a lot about this. This is going to be a black tea. It's going to have traditionally cardamom and cinnamon and ginger and cloves and black pepper and different things like that. It's going to have that warm, spicy flavor to really match with the robustness. And this one is going to use a masala, an Indian masala tea leaf. Ours, closest we come to this is we have our onyx chai, which is a blend of black tea leaves, but we don't use a masala in it. We don't. We use different ones. But again, it's very similar. It is very popular. It is in the top 5 sellers for us personally, but the number 3 across the world. Okay, we're closing in, and it's number 2 most popular tea blend across the world. Anybody want to guess this one? Breakfast blend.
Woo, I got it.
The handy dandy assistant absolutely got it right. The number 2 tea blend is a black tea blend. That's breakfast blend, or an English breakfast. And it is typically a blend of Assam, Ceylon, and Kenyan teas. All black teas, so they're very full bodied, they're hearty, they're very robust, completely oxidized. This is also, like the Irish breakfast, very traditionally a milk and sugar tea as opposed to something else. This is the standard. If people say, if I went out onto the street or into the grocery store and said, do you like tea? You know, I was doing a customer survey. Do you like tea? And they said yes. This is the tea blend that they're picturing. This black tea traditional English breakfast blend. And I will tell you, when I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel and go to other tea rooms and different places like that, a lot of times I will get a couple of different kinds of tea. The first one I always start with, my standard, every time I have tried a new blend or anything like that, my standard is the English breakfast. It was always my favorite until we created the Serene Sunrise, and then breakfast blend dropped out of the lead on that one. But I just love the blend, and I think there's some of it is the tradition. You know, this is what my grandparents drank. This was the traditional black tea that so many people think of as tea. And so for me, it's just very home. This is the normal thing. But I will judge a tea house on how their English breakfast is. And like I said, everybody has their own blend of what it is. Every tea maker, every tea blender creates their own English breakfast blend. Ours, we just call it breakfast blend, but English breakfast tea. That is only the number 2 across the world. Okay, it's coming time. What do you think is the number 1 most popular tea blend across the world? Guesses? Guesses, anyone?
No.
Well, it's Earl Gray. Now remember, we started number 10 with Lady Grey, and now we're at Earl Grey. So we call Earl Grey, our particular proprietary blend is, we call it Earl's Blend. But an Earl Grey tea is, again, a black tea. It is typically black tea that has been infused with a bergamot oil. Some people will also add some other things into it, but it is primarily a bergamot and black tea blend. It's going to have a very floral and citrusy aroma to it. It has a very distinct aroma to it. People immediately recognize. Some people who don't like floral teas will call it perfumey. I don't find it perfumey. I find it more of a floral citrus. This is good. Hot, cold, splash of milk, no milk, and you put lemon in it, sweet, unsweet. In fact, we use Earl's Blend for so many of our mocktails. Quite a few of our mocktails have Earl's Blend in it because it adds so many different notes. You have the notes from the black tea, you have the citrusy from the bergamot, and bergamot, while a citrus, is slightly different from your orange and your lemon and your tangerine and the ones that people think of all the time. It is actually the most promised one. One of the funniest stories I've ever heard about someone trying to describe it. So when we are at a farmer's market or an event, we have what we call little jars, and we call them the snippers, and it's just the tea. So people can literally open up those, and they can look and see what the tea looks like, and they can smell it and see what the tea is going to taste like. Mostly because when I try a new tea, I might go in someplace, and prior to making it myself, I would be shopping, and I'd be like, oh, that sounds like a really great tea. And then I would buy it, and I'm all excited, and I get home, and it doesn't taste very good. I thought I would like it based on the ingredients. Oh, I like that, I like that, I like that, but I didn't like the blend together. So what ended up happening was we thought, well, you can't always tell just from a list of ingredients. So we put the snippers in because if you smell it, you get a really good idea what it tastes like. And so this little boy, man, he was probably 8-ish, and he was smelling the teas and he was trying the free samples, and he smelled it and he goes, Mom, this smells like Grandma. And I thought, that's so cute. And they actually bought it because it was his grandma's birthday coming up, and they came back later, and she absolutely loved the tea, and they got some more for her, but he knew that that's the tea that his grandma loves. And it was so funny because he got all excited. And Diane likes Lady Grey more than Earl's Grey. Yeah, Lady Grey's a more delicate blend. The Earl's blend, or the Earl's Grey, is a much more robust. It's bolder, it's more robust. It doesn't have as much of the citrus blend to it, so it's a heartier tea. But it was just so funny. So that is the #1 most popular tea across the world, is actually Earl's blend, which was a little bit surprising for me. Like my handy dandy assistant, I kept thinking breakfast blend, or the English breakfast, would be higher. I love. Just drop a watermelon in there, you know. Another piece of watermelon. It's not going to hurt. Okay, coming back to our mocktail. One of the things I love when we make these mocktails is that we get to try different flavors with the different teas and see how things go. But one of the things I like to do is offer you what will pair with this watermelon tea mocktail. We need a name for it, people.
Fred.
We're not going to call it Fred. And we're not going to call it Steve either. Okay, so if you think of a name, please put it in the chat or the comments. But I always want to tell you, what would I pair this with? So this has the notes of the breakfast blend, and it has the sweetness of the watermelon. So there are a lot of possibilities, of which I wrote some down, which is why I have to look down at my notes. So this would be good if you were having like a cheese and fruit plate, but I would go with a feta cheese, a very fresh mozzarella. This would be amazing with like a goat cheese that has a little bit more of a bite, because it'll help you watermelon crawl all day.
I think that's copyright.
You don't really want you want something that has a little bit more of a bite to it. You know, something it can complement the black tea, but also have the sweetness of the watermelon in there.
Brie cheese.
I wouldn't do a brie. I would probably do more of, you could do a pepper jack, a really good Parmesan or a Gouda cheese with this. Goats like watermelon. See, goat milk and watermelon would go perfectly. If we're talking food, you could do a grilled chicken with this very well. The thing is, watermelon itself pairs really well with a lot of spices. So if you were doing like a spicy barbecued chicken, where you had a spicy barbecue sauce with your chicken, this would work really, really well with it. You could also do it with something that's lighter, and on the opposite side is it's going to still pair pretty well with some of your fish. I would go more on the shrimp, scallops, or even salmon end of it, as opposed to like a tilapia or anything like that, or a cod. Okay, this, because I'm going to keep it away from my handy dandy assistant. So after the live tonight, we are going to have some chicken chimichurri, and chimichurri sauce like this, perfect, absolutely perfect for matching with the watermelon and the black tea. You're gonna get a good amount of sweetness and the robustness. It's gonna pair really, really well with like a steak chimichurri or a chicken chimichurri. That's really hard to say, way more difficult than I thought it was going to be. When it comes to desserts, I am going to say
Cheesecake.
you could do a cheesecake. I'm going to say like kind of on the end of more savory desserts. So yeah, certain kinds of cheesecakes that don't have a ton of fruit in them. A straight cheesecake would work. Ginger snap cookies, those would be really, really good.
Ooh, lemon cookies.
Lemon cookies could work with this. I would even go with a chocolate mint cookie. I know it's not Girl Scout season, but like the chocolate mints, a thin mint would work with this. Some of those kind of things, or fruit, you could go with anything kind of like a tropical fruit cup that has papaya or mango and pineapple, different things like that. So those kind of some of the things that I would pair it with for dessert. Okay, any other questions before we part ways for the week? All right. Well, I don't see any questions that have come up, so I want to say thanks for joining us, and we will see you next Sunday, 6 p.m. Central Time. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and if you want the actual recipe, I know it'll be in the live on the video on our page, but if you want me to send it to you, just go ahead and send me a message, and I will send you the recipe to the mocktail. Other than that, have a great week, Tea Family.